Well, we got Brandon Robinson back. He's, of course, founder and CEO of, Do you remember?
Horizon Aircraft.
This is the coolest tool on the planet.
Yep. I want one.
And every time we have him on, we have a ton of email about what's going on there. So I want to try to check in with him as much as we can because this is the next generation of aircraft. You know, Brandon, the last time we had you on there, I got an email asking, at the end of the day here, what's the first low-hanging fruit customer that'll take your aircraft, and where does this end up? Does it end up commercial at some point, or like what's the first stop in terms of commercialization?
Also, Sully, thanks so much for having me on again. Okay, so apart from all of the crazy military applications, right? If you can basically build a helicopter that's twice as fast, quieter, and has that vertical takeoff and landing ability, let's just think medical evacuation and emergency medical services, right? So you get into this crazy car accident, unfortunately you're on the side of the road, you need to be medically evacuated, someone who you love needs to be medically evacuated. Imagine one of these aircraft arriving, and instead of a noisy, slow helicopter that's extremely expensive, you have one of these aircraft show up. They can transport your loved ones to the hospital in half the time from that same distance, or literally from twice the distance in that golden hour, if you will. And so saving lives and transporting organs and critical life-saving drugs is, I think, a really powerful first mission.
Brandon, as far as the physical footprint your aircraft needs to land, is it basically, for lack of a better term, the same circumference as a normal helicopter would need?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's exactly that. So it can land in any helipad, which makes sense. Think of it as basically a 45-foot by 45-foot square of concrete or open field, any parking lot, and again, any helipad is great for this aircraft.
Hey, Brandon, when you talk about certification and entry into the market, we spoke to this a little bit last time. Remind us again what that's going to take and what are the challenges to get us to certification, because you guys seem like you're so close. I mean, this is the coolest thing on the planet, and every time I see you guys, you're making headway towards the next thing. Talk about it.
Yeah, so up in Canada, we have the advantage of, instead of being inundated like the Federal Aviation Administration is with hundreds of companies trying to do this, up in Canada, we have very specific expertise from Transport Canada that deals with power lift aircraft. So they're used to certifying like helicopter type of aircraft that it can take off and land vertically. And so we have that advantage. And we're going to be starting the certification process very shortly. A gentleman by the name of John Maris is on our board. He founded a company called Certification Center Canada. Obviously, with that expertise on board, we have an absolutely professional group that is preparing the foundation for it, that has already started the certification process, and we're moving forward up here in Canada, which is great.
Brandon Robinson, founder, CEO, Horizon Aircraft. Their ticker symbol is HOVR. Brandon, how many prototypes did you go through or have to go through before you arrived at what you have now?
So unlike most companies, we spent a lot of time in the prototyping phase. We come from kind of an operational background, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of companies that come from a university background that have these great ideas, but our company is a bunch of pilots and operators first. And so we spent a lot of time in the prototyping and conceptual phase in order to make sure that we had a product that actually made sense and that could be built to do really good work in the real world. And so we've been through about 3 or 4 different types of aircraft. The latest one is a large-scale prototype. It's 22-foot wingspan, weighs about 600 pounds, and it's been through hundreds of flight tests. It's been a long road, but we've had some great success, and now we're actually building the full-scale aircraft, which we're pretty excited about.
600 pounds, that's 2 of me. That's great. Right. Awesome.
Hey, Brandon, how soon, or is it already something like a private person, a billionaire wants to start buying this, and it's the cool new toy to have for private, individuals, billionaires?
So another great question. we've been approached by a number of folks, the militaries, and some private individuals that really want this airplane sooner rather than later. We will have a full-scale aircraft demonstrator in the next 2 years. Wow. That will prove out the basic technology, and then we'll be into low-volume sales at that point. Unlike some other folks where we're promising to deliver thousands of aircraft in the first year, we're going to be delivering hundreds of aircraft, and so those spots are pretty coveted, and we've had a lot of folks quite interested in procuring those initial sort of production slots.
Brandon, what's the range currently on the top model here?
So 500 to 800 kilometers, so 300 to 500 miles with fuel reserves required with folks on board. And so instead of just intra-city, if that makes sense, from one skyscraper to another skyscraper in a city, this will go between cities, which we think is a pretty powerful business model.
Hey, Brandon, we haven't talked about your competition. Only because we're too enthralled with you guys. But is there competition for this? I mean, you just mentioned other guys and hundreds of aircrafts. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so a lot of folks, I mean, they started off, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when the world was really focused on electrification in the aircraft industry. And we very much are behind those folks. It's fantastic. We took a bit of a different route where we thought that a lot of folks were maybe focused on those shorter range missions that might be a little more challenging. Again, 30 to 50 kilometers, or I should say 20 to 40 miles. And there was a big gap in the regional sort of travel space for advanced air mobility. So we built a machine that is complementary to theirs in many ways, and insofar as, again, we can go from city to city and not just from one point to one point within a city, if that makes sense. So in terms of competitors, there aren't many. I mean, we have a hybrid electric power system on board, which means it's burning traditional fuel that, by the way, still has 30 times the energy density of traditional. So fuel has 30 times the energy density of even the best batteries still. And we think that matters, and that it's proven out in sort of our range and speed and payload capabilities.
Hey, so as far as for the rest of 2025, what are the checkpoints for you guys that you can share with us? I know it's a publicly traded company, but what are you looking forward to most for the rest of the year?
Oh, wow. So we have transitioned to basically full court press on production and certification of a full-scale aircraft design. So if you walked into the hangar right now, you would see full-scale aircraft wing sections moving, actuators moving.
Wow.
Full-scale wing fan fired up and producing the requisite amount of thrust. And it's just a really exciting time for the company to transition to that full-scale aircraft design.
Hey, Brandon, please continue to come back on and start working on that one-seater edition. It's not too much to ask. We'll talk to you soon, brother. Brandon Robinson, founder, CEO, Horizon Aircraft, ticker symbol HOVR. You're going to get one, aren't you?
I'm going to ride one.
Heck yeah.
The thing's a pretty cool tool, I'll tell you that.
You know what else is pretty cool? The Big Biz Show. Lots more to come, so keep it here.